attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone, to what could be, if you are already contracted with Lifetime, this could be your third webinar event this week with Lifetime. But we have been pleased to offer several opportunities this week to connect with all of us at Lifetime, but also to connect with very special guests that have stories just reflecting the individuality of every single adoption that happens. My name is Libby Murray, and I am part of Lifetime Adoption's team of adoption coordinators. Joining me tonight is Kim King, who primarily works with the adoptive parents to help them get prepared for their birth mom. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Libby. Pleasure to be here.
And as all of you know, because we have quite a nice turnout tonight, which I'm excited about, but joining us tonight is Lifetime's founder, but also adoptive mom herself, Mardie Caldwell. Welcome, Mardie.
Well, thank you so much, Libby, and Kim also, and such a pleasure to see so many people on the call tonight. Such a blessing.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna.
I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot too, of with everyone, and so I'm going to let you guys drive it because I'm usually driving the radio shows and everything.
We're going to just go over a couple basics in case you're new to joining webinars tonight. You can participate. If you've joined us online, you can participate by asking questions or giving us your feedback or comments during tonight's call. And you can do that by typing in the box on your screen that will probably say questions or chat. And then if you're joining us by phone, but you still have access to email, you can always shoot an email over to questions@lifetimeadoption.com. And of course, if there's something that comes up during tonight's call that you may feel prompts a very unique or individual question related to your own adoption hopes or your own adoption path, feel free to contact Lifetime. If you're already working with Lifetime, you want to reach out to your coordinator. And if you aren't yet working with Lifetime, you are welcome to call, and any of us can help you. You can always call 530-432-7373, or you can email adopt@lifetimeadoption.com. So, another thing that I wanted to bring up is just been heavy on my heart the last couple weeks as we've prepared for tonight. Earlier this week we had 2 webinars featuring stories from a birth mother, but also a story from a recent Lifetime adoptive mom who is sharing her victory through open adoption. And a lot of wrote to me or called, and they were sharing, just sharing a voice saying, Mother's Day is kind of hard for us. We're not really sure how we feel about attending a webinar that's about Mother's Day. And, my feedback to them was the guests that were selected this week, including Mardie, were strategic because we wanted to recognize that, yes, Mother's Day's here. We can't deny that fact that around the country, people are going to be having brunches or lunches or breakfasts or going to church with their mothers or celebrating being a mom, and that can be a tender time for moms or just parents in general who aren't parents yet, or maybe you're waiting to add to your family, and that there can be a lot of mixed emotions around the holidays that recognize parents when you're still waiting to become one. And so we just really wanted to just honor your wait right now, your journey, that you're moving closer to that child that you've been praying for by bringing on guests like Mardie tonight. Because Mardie has a very special story that not only ends in her own adoption success, but that ends and continues to go on as adoption success for thousands of adoptive couples throughout the country. So again, Mardie, I just want to welcome you, and I think we'll go ahead and dive in. I know we also have photos to share. Thank you very much for sending them over.
I think let's see, Lolita sent over, so I don't even know what you have.
Yes.
But,
well, you will see.
So this will be a surprise to me, too.
Let's just start at the beginning. I know that earlier today when we were talking, that you were sharing with all of us actually in our meeting earlier today just how even still today you have memories of those Mother's Days and how bittersweet it is to look back. You know, and
It
so
is, and I almost forgot about that. You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot about that. Every May, and I've got families that have birthdays in May, but every May around Mother's Day, I get this. I still, and this is, you know, my son's 24 years old, and there he is with his wife and my daughter, and there he is when he was a baby, and he would go all over. I carry him all over, but you know, I would have this period of time when I really felt a little bit depressed, a little you know, I was looking inside of me, and I'd take more walks in the trees and stuff, and I realized that even though I'm a mom and I'm blessed and I'm helping so many other people, there's still a part of me that misses the children that I didn't have. You know, the 7 that I gave up, that you know, God took from me, I should say, and for a reason. And it was the week before Mother's Day, and I just realized that today at the meeting that it's about today that I lost one of my pregnancies, and it was on Mother's Day that I started spotting and couldn't go to church. And I lost another one another year right on Mother's Day, and that was so horrible because I remember staying home on Mother's Day, and I thought, this is so awful, not knowing what God had planned for me and for the future. And I know today it's my mantra for the whole month has been give thanks in all things, you know, no matter what happens. And it's really helped me quite a bit because I can see now, looking back, you know, all the things the Lord had planned were there, but I didn't have as much, have a hard time doing this without crying. As much faith, because it was really hard. Mother's Day was difficult, and I really want to speak to the hearts of not only the women, but the men that love these women. That it can be tough. Mother's Day, I normally wanted to just take a sleeping pill and stay in bed. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to celebrate with my mother. You know, I went through enough church services where they said all the mothers stand up, and everyone around me stand up, and I didn't. And, you know, I wanted to scream, you know, this is so unfair. And so I got to a point that I cut that out. But I remember the first Mother's Day that I did after I adopted Corey. I went, and I was so excited to take him there, and I have a picture with my corsage, and he's there, and was there. And I remember the pastor said to me, "Oh, you did it the easy way." And I thought if I didn't have the baby in my hands, I would have popped it, you know. Not very Christian-like, but I thought if he only knew, you know. And it was a fill-in pastor. But it's still, after all these years, it's a memory, just like when you have a death in the family. And I don't want to tell people, it does get better, but you always have that where you'll think. And my joy right now is that, which really kind of keeps me going during this period of time, is that I thrive on helping other mothers become moms. And celebrate the new adopted moms that are going to be this year, next year, and have been. And that to me is crucial, because if you have to have a higher mission or goal, and for the people out there that are wanting to be moms the first time, and I've said this till I'm blue in the face, is to have the trust that it will come if you do not give up. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I write about this in my books, is that, and I meet people all the time that I wish I had read your book, you know, 4 years ago or 20 years ago, because they wouldn't have given up. And I think, you know, when you give up, you close all those doors. And you don't. I normally find out when families, and I remember when I was doing the work that you ladies are doing now and speaking to all the families, it was right before the families would say, I can't do this anymore, it's never going to happen. It was like the next week the Lord put a child by nothing we did other than what we normally do. A birth mom called. She could have been sitting on the resume for 4 months, 5 months, and said, this is the family I want to talk to. And I still get goosebumps to this moment thinking about it, because this is where you have to have super faith. And it doesn't have to, you just have to go step by step. And I do that at times still today. I'll have to be, you know, honest with you. There's moments when I really missed the other day as I'm getting older. I wish I had more kids. I wish I had, but I remember one time saying, oh, Lord, I really want to have another baby. Before the last word was out of my mouth, I was in a Roe versus Wade service and praying. It's like he bought me on the back of the head with a 2x4, and he said, all these babies are your babies. And so since then, when I see these new babies coming to all the families and all our walls filled, it fills my heart. And And I know that if the families on the call tonight do not give up, and you really have a deep belief that this is going to happen, and you stay strong to each other, and this is a tough time, believe me. Marriage, infertility, and marriage and adoption sometimes can have some really rocky roads and some very sharp edges to walk over. I will not, pussyfoot around that because it's difficult. It's trying to make a baby. You want it so badly. Your spouse wants it. There's blame and things like that. You've got to let go of that all. And this is why I really encourage families, too, during this difficult time, or any time during holidays, Father's Day, is to be able to reach out and speak to somebody. Counseling helped a lot because I was able to share my feelings. And realizing that, there were other people, and I was working with a lot of clients, too, during adoption, that had stillborns and had a lot of other issues going on. I had PCOS, and I know a lot of people out there that are on the call tonight, and I didn't find that out until after my 7th pregnancy loss, and I was then 40. And I wish I had known that ahead of time. It was really painful because I was getting ready for hysterectomy, and I thought, it was awful. And,
so Mardie, I want to back up. I want to back up just a little bit and talk about, because I think another encouraging aspect of your story is that while you were still moving forward to becoming a mother yourself, the foundations of lifetime sort of started to sprout up through that, and that meanwhile you were working with other couples and actually helping them to adopt and become parents themselves while you were still waiting. So when did you wait until after that 7th miscarriage to start adoption, or how did you know when it was time to move to adoption?
You know what? The Lord did. I mean, what happened was I had decided we didn't have a lot of money and we had to do a lot of the work ourselves. And back then, there was not the internet, and there's a picture on the right-hand corner of Mother's Day when we had him, and then when we brought his little daughter, his sister came in, my daughter. But back then they didn't have the internet. The books in the library were 10 and 12 years old, and I remember the library looking for some hope and trying to speak to people about adoption. And the librarian, one day felt really bad, and she gave me some information. And so I started doing a lot of legwork myself, and I was meeting people. They were calling me and saying, "Can you help us?" And so I was spending the day speaking to other hopeful adoptive parents, and I could feel their heart because it was like mine. And so what I did was I started sharing with people, "Why don't you come to the house?" My husband did the same thing, come to the house. And so on Thursday night, our house was overwhelmingly full of people, and they were up the staircase. We had a condo in the kitchen, and it was so hot we had to open all the doors. I remember looking at each other going, "Oh my gosh!" So we asked the church if we could have support group meetings there. We did, and we helped people. And what I did was I did not in that situation. A lot of times I would hear about birth moms, and I would call the families and meet the birth moms, meet the families, and we're doing matches even before I was adopted. That really helped me quite a bit, and I understood the heart of it. And I think people were drawn over to what we were doing because they realized that I had gone through the same loss and that I knew the feelings. And I also knew that I wanted to keep them away from harm's way. And I had people scam me. I had women that said they were pregnant. They weren't pregnant. I put out money. There's a birth mom, Gretchen.
Now, I'm bringing up a picture. I think it's the early days when you were just a
early
referral.
Days, it was adoption support and referral. And Gretchen was one of the birth moms, and she worked with me, and I had birth moms stay with me. And she was just a sweetheart, and really helped. She said it really helped her a lot to talk to other adopted parents because it healed, and she was glad that she was blessing somebody else. So we would do fairs, and we would reach out and talk to people. But going through that loss and struggling with that, but also helping others, for me, that really helped. I felt that I was giving back, and I felt it was very interesting because everything was done at the time. I had a manufacturing company that paid for everything, and anytime I had a volunteer come in and volunteer time, the next month or the month after that, they'd have a baby. And it was just one of those things that the law of reciprocity and the Lord working there, that they would have a baby. They were giving too. And so they were giving back, and they were being blessed. And we just started continually doing that and sharing what worked and didn't, and being very honest with the birth moms and very honest with families on whether we thought it was going to work or not, and going along and encouraging people. And it's tough. I have the same questions that I hear now that I did in 1986.
Yeah.
People still have the same fears. It's just a little bit different now, because then it was a phone call and you'd go meet everybody, and now it's the internet and photos and things. But, you know, we have so many more successes. I mean, when I started, we were doing just a few adoptions. And, you know, now, on average, you know, Lifetime's doing about one adoption every 72 hours. And they're all different. People go, well, I want one of those. It's got to be the birth mom that chooses the family. And that's the way it was back then, too. I know I had families. I think I had 5 little families that would come to my house, and we'd have tea, and we'd have a potluck. And I remember having one of the early meetings, and 4 of the families had been matched or had babies, and 1 did not. And that was really hard to have that one family sit there, and she was in tears, and so she stayed afterwards. We spoke about everything, and how difficult it was, and really understood that it was difficult to stay there, because she had joined with another friend of hers and she had a baby. But it wasn't soon after that that she had adopted a little boy, and he was precious. I went to his dedication. I watched him grow up, you know, to a young man, and you know, so her time was there too. But we always tell families, it's so true, is that we don't know that next where that child's going to come from or where the birth mom is, and you have to just make yourself available. And again, that's so important. If you get nothing out of today's webinar, I hope you get a lot out of it, but listen, don't give up. And realize that if your hope is to adopt, and that you would like a child to be your own, that the Lord knows that. And that was one thing I had to do. I finally said, I prayed and said, Lord, if you do not want me to be a mother, please take this desire out of my heart, because I cannot handle it anymore. I'm ready to burst. And I had been older for 5 children, and I had parented, you know, raising my brothers and sisters, and had always known I wanted to be a mommy. I had made quilts in high school and all these things, and everyone just thought I'd get pregnant right away. Well, I did, then I would lose them. And even a set of twins, which is very, very difficult, and they were, you know, about a week and a half apart. So,
oh dear,
you know, lost one and then the other one. So that was very difficult. But, you know, through this whole thing, my vision was always that I felt I had this love, and I never wanted to give up. And even to this day, the more we help with adoptions, the happier I am. And I see the birth moms that are thrilled that we're helping them.
Well, and let's pause there a little bit, because I do have some photos. I just want for people to see how involved you've been over the years. And I know probably with some of these photos you might even have some stories or memories, but I just know, I know the heart that you have for birth moms, and that really is why Lifetime has been structured after all this time the way that it is because you not only have this tender heart for the parents longing for a baby, longing to have that dream come true of family, but that on the other side of that, like you said, is this birth mom who's got to be unique as the family she chooses, and that they come together, and that you can't push her aside or not have a heart for her in the end. And I know that that's something that's remarkable about you.
Yeah, and I've had these photographs here. I have adoptive mom, Terry. She and her son, and it was interesting because she adopted, and she was chosen because over someone else, other families, because she had taken a CPR class. And the birth mom to the right there in the more white tank top had said, you know what, if she's taken that and done all this, then I want her to adopt the baby. And so here, he's a little pro golfer now, and we all got together many years together. And it's interesting because they're close, but you know, he knows who his mom is, his birth mom, but he knows who his mom is, and it's not a concern. And birth mom's not there to say how to parent or anything else. And it's a very unique situation. They don't get together very often. Maybe once a year they may see each other. And until you're in adoption and really know, it's kind of like I tell people it's like a prearranged marriage. It's kind of like, but you have to be able to trust. And that's why education is really important with me, because the more you learn, And the more you know about adoption, the better you'll feel about your decision, and you'll know when it's a healthy situation or not.
Mm-hmm.
This is another little one. I did watch a lot of babies in my home. That came to my home and stayed, and I always told the families, if they don't come by in a week, I'm keeping the baby. But I used to go pick them up, and we got our baby fixed, and we had a lot of really fun stories. We had babies that were born at home. We had babies born in cars. We had one baby that had a pierced ear way back when, and it was going to a Mennonite family, which I thought was really funny. And we took the earring out fast enough.
Oh, that is funny.
Yeah, and so of all the babies, and families flew from all over the United States just to to come get their babies. Here's one of our birth moms on the left is when she finally decided on adoption. I flew to Florida with her because she was having some struggles and the attorney was giving her a hard time, and I was in Ohio at the time. And I said, I'll catch the next flight out and I'll take care of you. So I went and picked up the birth mom, went to the attorney's office, and she took care of all the papers, but she was fragile. She said, this is the family I want. This attorney is trying to convince me someplace else. And then up on the right-hand corner is her later on. And she's great. We're still in contact to this day. And she speaks to other birth moms, which is great. Birth mom on the right also, she placed a baby. You'll see some pictures too, a little baby with a family, open adoption, but feels that she had this baby for this family. So, very close on. And it was tough because on the left-hand side, when Tammy was there, she handed me the baby. I never will take a baby from a birth mom. And she handed the baby to me and then asked me, please take the baby and to the family. And I've had that happen in the hospital where I've gone and the birth mom just said, I just want you to take the baby and take the little basket and go down there. It's a little different now with the hospital regulations, but, many birth moms come to really trust Lifetime, and, they've asked us to be in the room and cut the cord, and would you please, for someone to just for a complete stranger, take my baby home and take care of it, and you find a family for my baby. And we've had, 19-month-olds in our home and older children. We had. I'll tell you one story. It's really interesting. I got a phone call early in the morning, and I was answering on call. I was at my home, and this man called, and he said, my girlfriend's got this little boy, and she just can't parent him. I thought, whose choice is this? Well, I said, I can see you. So they came over, and she actually stayed outside. She came in, and she was a dancer, and she had, this is before tattoos were really, she had tattoos on her neck, and she had a tongue ring, and she had about 16 earrings on her ear. And she was the sweetest thing. And she brought her little boy, he was about 2.5, and they had shaved his head, and so I didn't even know what color his hair was, and she really wanted to leave him that day with me. And I said, I can't right now. I said that I'm going to find a family for you, and within that day I found a great family, and we're still in touch with them. And he has beautiful, cute little blonde curls and a sweet boy. But, birth moms come and they share their heart, and they want help, and they're reaching out, and they're constantly reaching out. And that's why it's so important that families get to know the heart of women. And Birth Mom Day is the day before Mother's Day. And there's so many women, because if you think about all the adoptions, there's a mom, a birth mother for each one of them. And I never forget my children's, family, because without them I wouldn't be a mommy. And that was always the way I felt, because at the very beginning, I really just wanted, before I was educated, I learned about this. I really just wanted someone to drop a baby off on my doorstep in a basket and ring the doorbell, and I would swoop the baby up, and I'd swirl around like Cinderella, and the baby was mine. And then I started realizing that, I wanted more information, and it's very interesting. My son that we saw the photograph earlier, just about 3 weeks ago, went to the doctor, and he was filling out his paperwork, and he goes, Mom, I just started doing the paperwork with your health history. And then I realized that's not mine, And it was really sad. I mean, he was kind of laughing about it, but he said, I want that information, because he had 4 or 5 pages that I said, you're going to have to put adoption on there, honey, because I don't have that information. Now, with adoption today, we get as much health information as possible. But these are the stories that come back, and my children help we have pictures of my children, bouncing babies on their laps, and they'd come home from school, and there'd be another baby at the house, and a family would show up, and that, I can't tell you, in my house, the Victorian house I have, there's a glass window you can see out, and families, I would be in the house with the baby, and I could see them come off the porch, and they would stand there and straighten their clothes up, and they would, they get so excited, and the very first time that they laid eyes on their child is priceless. And there were times when I was there with the birth mom, and she would meet the family for the first time after speaking to them on the phone, and that bond, and then I just kind of disappear out of the room, because it's all about them. And they just start getting to know each other, and they really don't need me, and I don't need to really be there other than make sure they had, coffee or tea or something and just help them if they need, but they really became engrossed in each other. And it's moments like that that we really realize that, the heart of these women and what it goes through. And that's why I think, because I've been on both sides of it, I realize that we have to give extra care to birth moms. And it takes a while. There's families of lifetimes that we can't. We just turned out good families because they couldn't get the heart of a birth mom. And they just wanted the baby like I did a long time ago. They just wanted the baby and be theirs and ignore it. But you know what? It's not fair to the child. And you really want to have that information. You want the social information. You want the health. Even the musical part. My daughter is wonderful with music, and she gets that from her biological family. I'm not musical, but she is extremely musical and very creative, and she gets that from her biological family. If I hadn't had that information, I would have never known that that's where she got it. And so I see this all the time. I see little boys that walk like their adopted dads. They walk the same way. They pick up things, and people say, even to my son to this day, and he agrees, he's more like me, than any of my family. And I think that he's really been wonderful to be with. Here's another family too that was nearby, and actually their birth mom had changed their mind. I had gone over there and talked to their birth mom. We had two that week that we recovered. That birth moms had changed their mind, but after talking to them gently and really going back over their goals, decided to continue with their adoption. And that's one thing with Lifetime, works very hard to help with that. And, this adopted mom also did breastfeeding, which was great for the bonding, and I'm going to do another webinar about that later on. But, it's good to get this information and the stories. And I remember having families that were coming to my meetings that would meet birth moms, and I go, I can hear your voice in the background saying, now be careful and ask these questions, and don't get so emotionally involved that you don't see past that, because we don't want you giving the birth mom money without talking to your attorney or, sharing that, because we want you to be safe. So these are why we have, educational seminars too. Here's, we had 3 babies born in 1 week, and this is way back, boys, pictures go way back. And here are 2 of them that were there.
This is your story, Marty. We have to go way back.
I know. I forgot about these pictures. And, wow. And everyone says, yes, I've lost weight. I was 250 pounds in some of these, and I'm down to 116 now. That's another whole seminar there.
That's another story.
But, yeah. And these are some of the babies that I cared for in my home, and you see at the office there. And there were times when we have a little a bassinet that we would roll in our small office, and we had, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I know Diane was still there. And we would buggy the baby up and down, and then we'd all take turns as we were on the computer, carrying the baby and waiting until we could find a family for it. And it was very, very special. And I remember, just a special request, families getting snowed in Alabama. You couldn't get out to get the baby, and the birth parents were leaving the hospital, and if they had left the baby there, the state would have taken the baby, and calling and begging, the birth mom calling and begging me, please come up here. The family can't get out. Can you come and take the baby? And I remember it was a sweet story, because I went up, and I was at Costco at the time, and I didn't plan on leaving. And so I had to go back into Costco and grab a dress and a notepad and pen and a toothbrush, which you have to buy like 20 dozen of them at a time. And, tossed a dress on and tore the tag off and headed for the airport, called my family and said, I've got to pick a baby up. And so when I got up there, the nurses had me go up to the hospital, upstairs, and I met the birth mom and the family. They were thrilled, and they were getting ready to leave. And so they signed all the paperwork for me to take the baby. And I remember the nurse walked me downstairs, and she said, this is normally where I would, help you into your car. I said, but I'm walking. And I wanted to save the family money, and the hotel was just about 2 blocks away. But that was kind of a scary 2 blocks because I thought, my trip with this newborn, where someone stops me because I had taken the paperwork all the way back, and I got this baby with this little arm tag. I think I stole the baby from the hospital. It was crazy what was going on. But it was really neat because I needed that healing because I was on the plane going to the state, to Washington, and I all of a sudden realized I had just lost, that I had not held a baby since I had my last miscarriage. And I started getting kind of anxious on what it was going to be like to be in a room by myself with this little baby. Could I handle it, or it's going to fall apart? And the Lord just blessed me and gave me a peace about it because I realized this baby was going to go to a wonderful home. And this is the way it was supposed to be. And it was, the family came together to the hotel, and one of our nice southern families and the birth parents that came back the next day, they were married, and they had 2 other children. And they came, and we all held hands and put the baby down on the bed, and we dedicated the baby and prayed, and basically released the baby to adoptive parents. And there wasn't a dry eye in the house. But this is something that the birth parents want to do. And so you see birth parents from all walks of life. Just because a birth mom has a tattoo, or a birth mom doesn't get back to you right away, or she's older or younger, or there's something that's not in your realm of what you're used to, doesn't mean that she's not going to be a wonderful birth mom. Some of the best birth moms I've had have been birth moms that have been, in walks of life that our family are not used to. And one of the reasons I think that it helps us is that, we don't judge them. We're glad they're there, and we're here to help them.
Right. And that's why, Mardie, I had to excuse myself from the call for a few minutes because we had a birth mom call. And as you're talking about birth moms, I brought us back to this slide again because I'm not sure if you got to talk about how Tammy's one of our birth mother peer counselors, and that you have kept a relationship open with her. And if you were able, even just looking at this photo from that day when you hugged her, it was because you hadn't seen each other in years and years.
No, we hadn't seen each other in years, and she had lived with me for a while, and with her son, her other son. And I had worked with the birth father. I worked with the family. I worked with the attorneys on it. And I remember having one dress I wore to most of the births, and I remember my poor family at times. I had 4 births in 1 month in Sacramento, and I remember driving home one night, and I got a phone from we definitely had pagers, so I got paged, and so I had to pull over and get a on a payphone call, and there was another birth mom in labor, so I had to call my family and say I'm not going to be there. Go back to another hospital in Sacramento. And again, spend another long night with the birth mom going through labor. And, a lot of times attorneys, you can't depend on an attorney to do that, or even an agency. They're not going to put that time in. But, we've spent long hours with some birth moms. Some want you there and some don't. And most of them want the adoptive parents there if they can. But, it's a bond you have with the birth mothers, and they're so happy. If you can hear any interviews with Tammy, I have some from my Let's Talk Adoption radio show, and they're also available on audio. You'll hear that I was so thankful, that you were there, or that we had this opportunity. And so a lot of times, just like I was at the very beginning, I really thought birth moms were different. What do they look like? And it's funny because birth moms will say, "Well, show me some families. What are they like? Are they going to be mean, or are they going to be nice to me? Are they going to judge me?" And that's why we have certain ways we have you do your profile, because some families, I get profiles in, random profiles, and some of them I thought I would give them a dog or a pigeon to take care of, let alone a child, because they're written so poorly. And that's one reason we have people, follow the recipe that we have for Lifetime that's been working because it brings out the real you, but sometimes people will say things they don't mean to.
Right.
It's a real put down.
Well, and
so,
I think on that note too, to be able to share the brief phone call that I just had from a woman who's due in October, and she just received her lifetime packet. She had just called literally like 5 minutes ago, and the only reason she called me was because she wanted to know, now that she's looking at these profiles of parents, and she's facing this basically a crisis situation in her life, if there's any chance that these parents would change their mind and decide after the adoption that they don't want to raise her baby.
And you know what? That is so, I hate to say this, but I'll say this on the call with adoptive parents. We have adoptive parents change their mind way more than birth moms, and that's why we really are looking for really dedicated parents, because this is a lifetime adoption, not a week-long adoption. And you really have to have that deep desire in your heart that you want to be a parent. And I know I had that when I wanted to be a parent, and I dedicated at least an hour a day, and I know at times it was much more. And I had an adoption buddy, a friend of mine, and we would touch base with each other every single day and encourage each other. And back then, since there was no internet, we would go out actually before the welfare office and hand out flyers. I mean, we were doing all kinds of wild things. And but you know, we didn't know how to reach the birth moms, and so we figured out ways. And now that's what we do. We do all that work for the families, so that you're not standing out there and having people pour your paper on the ground or whatever. But we wanted to be parents so badly, and I knew time was ticking away, and I wanted to spend as many years as I possibly could with my child. And so when I knew what I had to do, and I did it. And that's what I tell families today at our meeting. We realized that we have a number of families that have never sent us profiles. And I started getting angry, because it's like, why would anybody spend money and say they want to adopt and then they don't send a profile? Because we had 31 birth moms last week, Kim?
32
birth moms that came in. They got profiles, but for the people that didn't have profiles, they missed those birth moms, because more than likely our chances of sending another group of profiles to them are probably pretty slim. Maybe a few will want some additional profiles, but they just missed out on those. And so, you know, I share with families that, you know, that this is a time that you really want to think about this, but life is so short. And if you're doing everything you possibly can right now, and you really trust the process and believe, and don't let any negativity come into your mind, just put one foot in front of the other every day, pray, and ask the Lord what you can do to help move the process along. And sometimes it's like, Libby, we have these, little adoption cards, and I take these out too. I have them in all my jackets and all my purses and all my cars, and wherever I am, I leave these little cards. And they profile different families, and you know, that I put them in bills too. All our bills, when we pay our bills here for the utility companies and mortgage and anything else we do, we stick in our adoptive family cards. And I have had phone calls in the past from these. And so for me, it doesn't cost 1 penny more to drop in a card, give a stack to my bookkeeper, and say, make sure these are on each one. And I put them on bulletin boards, and the phone calls come in to us, and we can screen them. And they ask for the families that are there. And I just think it's another way to outreach. So, you know.
And Mardie, I had a question come in, and it goes back to kind of the early stages of lifetime. This question says, Mardie, how were you able to push aside your grieving and emotions while waiting to be a mom to help other families in need? You make it sound so easy, but I find it so hard. How are you able to do that?
That's so
you know what?
true.
Let me share a story with you. It was not easy. I remember I still hate baby showers to this day. I hate a baby shower. I'll send you a gift, but I don't want to go to your baby shower. And I love babies, but I would go to baby showers with my friends, and I would go if I had to go. And I would go in the bathroom, and I would cry my eyes out. And I could not stand it. I would rather do anything than go to a baby shower. And I think because I was working with families, and I knew that if they were getting babies, that I would be soon getting a baby too. and that if the process is working for somebody already, it's like the Oregon Trail. They made the trails before me, and so I knew if I kind of followed in the same, and I used them as guinea pigs. Let's see if this first one chooses you for the kids, and I'm going to do the same. And I don't want to make it seem easy because, I went through some depression, and in my own adoption, I talked about this in other ones. My own adoption with my son, I got a phone call on my 30th birthday, and they said, the birth mom said she wanted to talk to us. And I remember I was having a pity party, and my sister-in-law had come over, and she was back in the house, and I was crying and doing my little thing that I did because woe was me, I'm not going to adopt, I'm just going to raise parakeets. And so the phone called, and I wiped my tears away, and I went to it, and it was a birth mom that wanted to speak to us. And so she was due within a few days, and she liked our profile, and so she was interested. So she had the baby, and she had the baby like 15 minutes after she got to the hospital. She was on the East Coast. And she had the baby, and we were so excited because my birthday was the 1st, and my husband's was the 4th, and the baby was born on the 8th of October. And so when she had the baby, and I was really kind of nervous because I had been matched with a lot of birth moms, and I had a lot of fall-throughs. I had 3 birth moms at one time that were interested in us, and so I kind of kept that distance, and that's why people were coming to us, because they kept going, my gosh, you have all these birth moms. And sometimes I'd speak to the birth mom, and she'd say, well, you're too heavy. I don't want anybody that's heavy. And so then I find someone that was skinny, or you're not this space. I want someone this space. But I remember going through that process, and for me, it was a daily thing. I mean, I had to do lots of reading. And I think in a I don't want to say a sick way, but in a way, if I read every day, I guess I naturally thought this baby would pop out of this book. And I didn't want to hurt anymore. And that's one reason I work so darn much around May, because I really don't want to focus on, Mother's Day and the losses. But I found giving back and helping was really helpful for me. I even volunteered in the nursery and just to get my baby fixed. And people go, how could you do that? And it was a short little thing. I would do it maybe 2 Sundays out of the month. And I would do it till I just couldn't do anymore. And but I like helping people with part of nature. But at the very beginning, remember, I really didn't want to have a birth mom that I met face to face. I just wanted a baby and have it nicely and have that baby there. But I realized later on this child has a history. And I want my child I never wanted my child to come back and say, you kept me from the information from my birth family, and I'm angry at you. And it's interesting because my son just shared the other day that he had contacted his birth brother, and I didn't know this. I've always shared, where they lived and their names, and we have, we celebrate his chosen day. And we used to go to McDonald's for his chosen day. Now it's sushi, so it's kind of gone up. The stakes have gone up. But we talk about his adoption quite often, and he's really not had an interest, in seeking his birth mother, but he wanted the information from his birth brother, which is about 2.5 years older. And I dedicated my last book to the second to last book, to that birth mom book. So I was thinking about adoption to his birth mother. And I think you just have to think outside the box, and you have to put aside. I had to get over my grieving. In my woe is me, because it wasn't getting me place. And I remember going to the mall, and I remember if I knew the baby store was on the right, I would go into the far left, and I'd go on the bottom floor, so I didn't have to even go near it. And I would bypass any baby store, at all, because I just didn't think I could handle it. So I struggled with it, but I found, for me personally, helping others was getting me closer to it too, and also just talking about it and journaling about it, and struggling. A really tough marriage was really tough during that period of time.
Mardie, you will often tell adoptive parents that you have to grieve the loss of that biological child before you're completely ready to move forward. And I think that's different for everyone, because I think a lot of times, especially when you're still moving through that grieving process, a lot of people will say, well, how do you do that? How do you know if you're doing that?
Yeah, and I think what happens too is that I also wanted to, you know, I did, people would say, well, how did you know you're going to love this little boy? And I remember driving to go, because my birth mother called after he was born, and I could hear in the background, and my heart just leapt. I thought, oh, that's him. And then she said, you know what, I really don't think I can do this. And I said, okay. And I said, you know, I really enjoyed talking to you and getting to know you. You know, if you ever want to just talk, give me a call. I didn't get mad. I didn't cuss her out. And I've had families do that. And then I have the birth moms call back, and they'll say, I definitely don't want that family. Find me a new one. And but I didn't do it for that reason. I really knew that she loved this baby. And so 5 weeks later, she called. There's a big, long story behind that. But, you know, I was in church, and God gave me a word. I was raised Catholic, and I was visiting a Protestant church, and I had opened the Bible up, and there was in Isaiah, paraphrasing, a phrase about, I'll send your sons from the east and gather you from the west. And so it just leaped out at me, and I had no idea. This was 4 or 5 weeks after, you know, change, and I thought this was somebody in the church. And I remember leaning over to my husband. I said, I feel like I can stand up and share this. And I said, I have never done that. And he said, just do it. So I did, and I wrote in the margin of my Bible, when the Lord gave me the word. I always do that, and dated it, and shut the Bible, did thinking of it, and said hello and goodbye to everybody, and went home, and my walked to the house, and my little red light on my answering machine was blinking, and I went to listen to the message, and my heart just jumped because it was birth mother. And she said, you know, I tried doing this, but he really deserves more. Would you still be interested in adopting him? And I thought, oh my gosh. So I tried calling her back, and that was before call waiting, and her line was busy. So I'm pacing, I'm, you know, dialing the number again. There was no redial, and then it just dawned on me. And I remember calling to my husband. I said, oh my gosh, where's the Bible? I said, where's Baltimore, Maryland? And he said, on the East Coast. And I said, how far east? He said, all the way on the East Coast. And I said, it's Bible. And I said, look. And so we were living in California, and she was in Baltimore on the east, and it was a little boy. And so I really felt the Lord was saying, this is your child. And little did I know, you know, what was going to happen then. And so, you know, birth mom came out to the house on birthday. We flew her out, and we asked her to come to dinner at our house because we wanted to make sure that she felt comfortable. We still have photographs of her that night with her little boy, and she was crying. She put him down to bed in his bassinet in my room, and my heart was just hurting for her. And we had dinner. Nothing got past my Adam's apple in my throat. It was just like stuck there. And but we had to go through, and I asked her, I said, you know, I want to make sure this is what you want to do. So, you know, you're going to spend the night with another friend of ours who was a facilitator. And I said, if you wake up in the morning and go, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, I said, we'll fly you back without a question at all. Just let me know. I want you to be honest with me. And so in the morning, she said, no, I really want to do this. And so we said, okay. So she went to the airport. But on the way over to pick up the baby at the very beginning, we got lost. And we had never talked about it. And we said, oh, my gosh, what if this baby's really ugly? You know? You know?
Right.
I guess we just love him anyway. Isn't that terrible? But it's like, oh, my gosh. So, and I'm so organized. And I had everything, but I forgot formula. So the baby, when we got there, you know, his birth mom was breastfeeding, and the baby started crying, and I looked up like, oh my gosh, I have nothing but a terrible mother, you know. So we had to go over to the store and get that, and she felt bad. So she actually did breastfeed him, and she had been doing it for 5 weeks. But I'll talk about stress level. So she went to the airport, flew down to her sister's, and it was in California then that they had 6 months to change their mind. And I helped pass the laws, 2 laws in California, yeah, that helped change this too and make adoption safer. And I was the only one asked by the to speak in front of the assembly about this and get this law passed. But they used to be 6 months now; it's just 30 days, and the birth mom can sign a 10-day waiver. But anyway, 2.5 weeks before that end period, and we've been talking. The birth mom called, and I could just sense something was not right. And she I had a phone call from the attorney, and she said she's changed her mind, and she wants him back on March 31st. And I said, that's their wedding anniversary. And he goes, well, we need to bring him back and meet us at the office, and they'll be there. And I remember putting the hand over the receiver and asking my husband, I said, are you willing to lose everything we have for this? And he said, yeah. And I remember we sold jewelry, and we sold cars, and we had art, and we had a garage sale, and we had 3 attorneys involved at the time. And God was putting me through the adoption experience, my education. It was, I call it my Harvard education in adoption, and it was tough. And there were, and it took, it was months and months. We didn't know, and it was so hard because in the morning he would lie there and he'd want to be picked up, and I thought, are you going to be gone today? Am I going to really have you? And that was really hard. It still hurts today, but I really learned what it was like, and God was teaching me what to share with families. So when I talk to families, and believe me, you don't want me on the phone. If you guys are being kids, I'll be really tough with you. Because I've been there, and I'll tell you, you don't do this, or you do this, or you're kicked out of the program. I mean, I'm tough because I know what it's like to go through the pain, and I'd rather have you wait a few extra months and get the right baby. And he was the right one, but I was being educated to do the work we're doing today. So,
well, and
Mardie, again, how long was that? I'm sorry, Kim. How long was
well,
that
it was 18
before
months.
you actually welcomed Corey?
It took 18 months, and that was 24 years ago. It was $23,000 in legal fees and 7 attorneys. And it was interesting because the Lord blessed us along the way. I remember saying, we have $500. How are we going to do this? And the attorney in Maryland said, I need $10,000 retainer or we can't do anything. And I thought, how am I going to do this? It wasn't, I don't know how, just a short time afterwards, like a few hours, a decorator called from the Lake Tahoe area and said, I'm opening a bunch of condos. I need to order some, I was doing silk plants and trees, and I need this order, and it came to like $10,058, which back then I could buy a couple things, gas, and food, you know. And it got us through, so I sent him the $10,000, and we lived on the rest of it. And friends brought us casseroles over, and I was working 3 jobs, and we got through. So at the very, very end, we ended up going over our anniversary. I decided not to take the baby, and I wanted to talk to him because he didn't know. My son didn't know anybody else but us, and he'd been with us now. He was, you know, he'd been with us for 5 months, and I wanted to plead. And so when I went there, the birth mom was there, the birth father was there. They had the little cradle. They had a friend there, you know, baby carriage, car seat, and diaper bag. And I was paying for the attorney. Both attorneys were there. My attorney became her attorney, and my attorney became my attorney. I was paying for both of them. And I remember standing at the bathroom in the drinking fountain there, and the birth father and I met eyes, and something happened. And he sat down and he said, I like these people, and I think you should stay with them. And it was a miracle. And so we went home, and it took quite a few weeks more, but it was right before we were supposed to go to trial. The attorney's office called, and I could hear celebrating in the background. They said, please call us back. It's a landmark case in California. And birth parents had changed their mind, and they were going to leave the baby with us. But it was very interesting because during this period of time, it was 18 months before finalized, there were 2 days that, and I'll finish the story, 2 days that the birth parents actually wanted the baby back, and we were out. The Lord had us out of the house at that time. And one morning when I woke up, God just told me, I bolted up in bed, and I said, we're not supposed to be here today. I don't know why. I had no idea what it was like at all. And so I said, let's go stay at my mom's house. We've never done that before. I mean, when I moved out at 18, I never went back to my mom's house. Well, we did. And that day, I found out later on when we were settling all the adoption that they had flown in. And I don't want to scare people with this. I just want to share with them that, you know, there are so many safeguards in place right now. But I believe this child was the one meant for me. And his birth family did also. And in the long run, it took 18 months, and it took a while to get used to that. And he is still very, very dear to me, as all our children are. But I can't imagine life without him. And people go through losses. I had babies that I was matched with. One little boy we were matched with on Sunday night, and we got a phone call. The birth parents picked another family that had come to see him before that, and I hung the phone up, and I was no longer a mom. And that was hard. And so, you know, I'm sharing all these things because, not to fear, but to be honest with you. You know, I had ups and downs too. I've gone and I've had to, you know, facilitate with adoptions where birth moms really felt they wanted the baby back, or birth fathers. You know, I had my car scratched by a birth father, just totally etched with key in a rough area. You know, I've had death threats from fathers in prison. You know, I've had to have restraining orders because I advocated for an adoption that I really felt that this child should be with and the birth mom did with the adopted parents, and the birth father was saying no, but he was in prison or he wasn't doing anything. And so, you know, these are things I usually don't share, but, you know, when I feel this is right, this is right, this is right, I know we're going to do whatever we possibly can. And the families that really feel that's true, and the birth moms too go through. I never want to take a baby from a birth mom that really wanted. I never hated my birth mother. I loved her. She loved the same child I did. There was never an ounce of hate in there. And a lot of families find that very difficult, but she birthed this child that made me a mom. And for whatever reason, and if it didn't seem fair, I still have this precious baby that called me mommy. And that's my hope for families. If they stick with it, they don't, you know, they don't give up. When things get tough, you go read, you talk to other people, you stay around encouraging people. Do not stay around naysayers, and I had them, you know. Believe me, I had tons of them in my own immediate family, and I just had to stay away from it because I knew that I wanted to have a baby, and I wanted to build my family through adoption. And then I wanted to help other people. So the families out there saying, how can I do that? It's one step in front of the other. And also, I think giving when it's painful sometimes, and the Lord knows your heart. He knows what you want. He also knows the desires. And if you don't feel you're that close to understand a birth mom, download at freeadoptionbook.com. Is that where the book is?
Freeadoptionbook.com. Yes.
Yeah, and download that book. It takes 50 minutes to read, and read it so you can start understanding birth moms too.
Maybe a little longer than 15. Yeah.
30 minutes. I'm sorry, 60 minutes.
Yeah.
60 minutes.
Yeah,
sorry, 60
it really
minutes.
is, and it really is good because just I know, Mardie, from your experience too, you'd probably agree that the nerves, the fears that birth moms have about adoptive parents are often the same fears that adoptive parents have about birth moms.
Oh yeah, just like the birth mom there is that they worry that you're going to change their mind. I mean, can you imagine what would be worse is to actually relinquish your child to complete strangers and then have them not want to have that child. And we see this with re-adopts from other countries.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the fear. Is that you can imagine? And I'll cut it off, but is that I have birth moms. You know, I tell families when they're not sure if they could do this. Imagine if someone came to your house tonight and said, "I'm going to take your spouse, and we're going to leave, and you'll never know if they're alive, they're being fed, if they're cared for, if they're happy. They're just going to go, and you don't have a right to know anything about them." How would you respond to that? Or your pet, you know, whoever you're close to. If you're not close to your spouse, then your pet, you know. But I hope you're close to your spouse now. But you know, it's very difficult to think about what these birth moms are giving birth, and they don't forget that. In the old days, they were told to forget it and don't feed the baby and forget about it. And I tell people, too, that birth moms need to say goodbye before, you know, hello before they say goodbye. They've got to know they did a good job, that they're making the right decision, and they've got to get to know you. And you can only do that through good communication, and you've got to have it together before you meet a birth mom. That's why reading's important, and that's why, you know, healing. You can speak to birth mom.
So, Mardie, we had we've had some really good feedback from our audience tonight. And again, if you know, we're probably only going to go here for another few minutes, but if you have a question that you want Mardie to address, or maybe you just want to share something that helped you, or just any reaction to tonight's call, you can type it into the questions or the chat box on the screen. But also, you know, we had a question earlier. I think probably you could touch on now too, is because you did talk about how much your adoption cost and how coming up with 500, let alone tens of thousands, to complete the adoption was just as big of a hurdle. So can you go over again ways that families could actually start to pull those finances together if that's their biggest stumbling block?
And I've helped a lot of families pull finances together, from you know, fundraisers now on eBay to having actually adoption garage sales with big banners, you know, that we're having a adoption fundraiser. And we did that for one family, and they were dropping off, people were bringing stuff to them to sell. Here, take this, you know. And so excited. And the spaghetti feeds at the church, which is great. Movie night. You know, I had one dad that was so touching. One adopted dad. He said, you know, he sold his car, and he got a bicycle and bicycled to work, and because he wanted to put that money toward his adoption, because he says, you know what, my car in 10 years is going to be in the heap yard, you know, but I don't want to do it. And I've had families on the line before where the wife and the husband are arguing because he doesn't want to get rid of his boat. And I'm not saying to get rid of your boat, but you know, it's like you're not ready, because if you're putting, okay, my boat's more important than a child, and I had to make sacrifices too. I'm so glad I did. It's all going to go away anyway. Look at, you know, and there are ways that you can do it. Yes, I had to buckle down. I had to work my little tail off, but the rewards are great. And everything I went through at that time, just like yours, will come back and you'll use it sometime later. You will be standing someplace and you will hear someone talking about what you've gone through, and there'll be a little voice in your ear that will say, "Now's your time to share." And I didn't always share all my adoption stories with everybody, but when I found it was appropriate or it was in the right place, I would do it. And I feel, again, when we give back in whatever way, I always tell my children, do 3 nice things a day. If it's opening a door for somebody, paying someone a compliment, you know, doing something, picking up trash somewhere, do 3 nice things a day. And that you don't have to, it's not for you. And I believe that sometimes sharing, you know, where you've been really helps. And this is like the birth moms that live with me. And they were on the phone. They never realized they would be healing by talking to others. And I think that was part of the healing, too, is I was helping others, and we were all moving forward to adopt and to become parents, and we're all in the same place, and I needed that support. And that, to me, is crucial. And that's one reason I enjoy, you know, speaking to groups, to women's groups and churches, because 3 out of 5 people are touched by adoption. Infertility is on the rise. Male infertility is on the rise. That's men having infertility problems. My husband had infertility problems. Lots of issues, and it's very, very difficult to address all these, and they're very private, and you don't always share that. And there are ways that you can share it without revealing information, too, and keeping your private life private. But I think that families need to go into their heart and say, what's important to me? You know, I mean, if everything was gone, I have to ask that. If everything was gone in my life, I lost everything, you know, could I keep going? And I, at this point, say yes. My children are the most important thing to me. I worked hard to help bring them into the world, and I don't go by at all without giving thanks for it. And I think that's the big thing, is to give thanks. Do I become poopy now and then? You bet I do. I ask my staff, you know, there's days when I'm tough, and there's days when I'm not feeling up to talking about adoption. But I just need a little probing, and if someone's there and I see them hurting, I will help them. And I think for the families that are facing Mother's Day and not really feeling like it's day, you need to give yourself permission to do whatever you feel like. Do not feel like, just because Mardie said, oh, go to church or whatever, don't feel like it. If you want to stay home and watch a series of, you know, some movies, you know, westerns or whatever all day long, then do it. If you want to order out and have Chinese come in, do it. For many people, it's just another day. And for Mother's Day, for me, you know, this is a nice day, but I'm thinking of all the moms that are still out there hurting and that really want the babies. And I do think, you know, pray for our families that have babies now. But I do feel that each Mother's Day, on Saturday, I feel for my birth mothers, and on Sunday, I still can feel the hurt out there for people that are still yearning, that were like me back then, and praying that they too will have the joy someday of being a parent, and they don't give up, and they stay close to their faith and to God.
Yeah.
And I hope that's helped. And I would love to have questions if anybody is.
Well, and I just want to share. We had one woman type in, you know, wow, Mardie, you're so strong, and I typed back to her, and then incidentally, the following comment from a different person was, how did you keep your faith so strong? But I typed back to her, you know, that you're not shy about giving that glory of strength to God, because it was from Him.
I'm not at all, because and there were times, let me tell you, there were times when I was flat on the bed and I didn't want to move. I didn't want to brush my hair. I did not want to talk to anybody. I have had real issues with depression in the past, and you know, I'm very honest about that. This is reality. You know, we see people and we think, oh, they've got a perfect life, a perfect family. Everybody has little issues here and there. And once you can say, you know, by the grace of God, here I go, and the Lord's going to take care of me and give me what I want and what I need. And I always tell my kids, Mommy gets everything she wants. My daughter said one time when she was little, but Mommy, you wanted more children. And I said, the Lord took that and He put it on to other families. So I said, Mommy still gets what she wants. And so, you know, it's going along, because that's the whole thing, is that, Lord, if I'm not going the right direction, then take the desire away from me, you know. And it can be anything at all. But the big thing, I think, during this period of time is staying close if you're married with your spouses. And I keep wanting to come back to that, because this is a really difficult time, but there is hope. And babies don't fix things. You know, there's a lot of work, and it can be at times very tiring. I remember walking in the store after I had the baby, and I had sweatpants on, and there was a mirror behind the cashier, and I had spit up on both shoulders. My hair was, you know, you saw back there a little flow, and I looked like I was a homeless woman. I thought, oh my gosh, I was picking up diapers, but I thought, this is motherhood. And so, you know, there are times when you just have to let the dust go, and you're thankful what you have. But I'm strong, but I'm also very weak, and it's the Lord that keeps me going and keeping my faith. And it's a daily thing, and sometimes an hourly thing. And I will be thinking of all of you this weekend, and praying for you. And as we speak, and we're on this call right now, there are women that are considering adoption, or even people on this call. And when I've done this call before in all the years, and had this before, and I've said this to people, there have been notoriously adoptions that came through at the same time that we've been having this conversation. And it's just having that faith. And my staff will share with me, you know, you have that, and that family was on the call, and they got a baby in the birth mom, and it was like, you know, or the baby was conceived at the same time that we were talking about this. The family felt, now is the time. This is when I'm going to do it. I'm not getting any younger. And you have to go with your heart. This is going to be your family. And when lifetime fades out in the back, we always want to have photos and letters, and it's going to be you and the baby, and it's going to be the information and the responsibility you have to that child and the birth mom, and to honor what she wanted. You know, letters and photographs. Now with the internet, you can have a private site where she can get photographs. She's not going to come back and get the baby. You know, this is just, birth moms want to know they made the right decision, and they want to be able to trust you. And, you know, I go with this because sometimes we have to hear it a few times. So unlike you guys, you know, I have my good days and my bad days. And I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. I hope that helps anything. But I know that you've got, I see some callers coming through too. But
I think, well, you have reached out to at least the ones who aren't too shy to comment back with us tonight. But you know, we had one that said your honesty is very much appreciated. You know, so many comments about, you know, just struggling with that walk in faith, and keeping your eye on God and God's lead through this call to adopt. So just thank you so much for being here tonight, Mardie, and for sharing your photos. And
everybody for taking the time too for this evening, and just and for you ladies too, Kim and Lee, for taking the time to take out of your evening too after working all day long and doing these calls. You know, I know that Olivia, you're going to be on call tonight too.
Yeah.
And Mardie, we love you, and we love the work that we get to be a part of here. And I just love these webinars because we get a chance to kind of let families in on what we're doing here. And it's so nice to have this opportunity, Mardie, for you to go through these photos with us and share all your stories, and just being so, it's like you have this heart for the birth mothers and the families, and yet you're tough at the same time. And I think it's just the right blend, and it's such,
you know, it's all because of the grace of God, and I appreciate that, and thank you too. So we're excited, and I want to hear, you know, send the comments. I need those too. You know, we all need little strokes on our back. We need to give you little strokes on our back, encouragement, and we need it too. And we're no different, and we want to hear about your successes and your fears, and so we can help you with that too. And we'll tell you the truth, you know. And I'd love to be back again. I used to do a lot of these webinars and teleseminars and myself, and I would love to be back again sometime. So if you're interested in having me come back, let's email Libby or Kim and let them know that topic, and we can rearrange that too.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you again
Thank
to
you,
everyone on the call. Yes. I hope you have a great night and a blessed weekend, and keep in touch and let us know how we can help you in the next step towards your adoption.
Yes. Okay, God bless. Bye-bye now.
God bless
Bye-bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.